Amid global energy shocks like the wars in Ukraine and Iran, and as the Trump administration pushes to expand US energy dominance in Europe, Greece is positioning itself to play a leading role in the continent's gas market. With expanded LNG capacity and infrastructure, much of it supplied by imports from the US, the country aims to help replace Europe's reliance on cheaper Russian gas. The Greek government is advancing the so-called vertical gas corridor, a project aimed at linking Greece's network to Central and Eastern European consumers, including even Ukraine, which Greece began supplying gas to last December. So in this video, we're going to take a look at how Greece could become the EU's new energy hub. Trump says a deal in Ukraine is 95% done, but in the latest issue of our magazine, we discuss why this might be a little too optimistic, with some major concerns still on the way. That's just one of 72 pages in the magazine, because as always, there's more to too long than you'd expect. Purchase your copy by clicking the link in the description. Let's start by unpacking how American liquefied natural gas, or LNG, became so important to Europe's energy infrastructure. Before Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Europe relied on Russia for roughly 50% of its natural gas, most of it delivered by pipeline. After the invasion, however, Europe moved quickly to curb that dependence, cutting Russian gas imports by about 2/3 within 3 years. By 2025, Russia accounted for just 12% of total EU gas imports. Now, despite years of efforts to accelerate the green transition, the shift away from fossil fuels has not moved as quickly or as smoothly as Brussels had hoped. Around 30% of EU households still rely on gas to heat their homes. So, with fossil fuels remaining a central part of Europe's energy mix, and Russian gas set to be phased out fully by the end of 2027, the EU has had to look elsewhere to fill the gas gap. By 2025, Norway had become the EU's largest gas supplier, providing nearly 1/3 of all imports, and the US followed closely in second place, supplying more than a quarter of the EU's gas via seaborne LNG. LNG soon became a structural pillar of Europe's energy security, and the way we see it, there's at least two reasons for this. First, it allows Europe to diversify its suppliers, as it can import LNG in tankers from multiple global partners. Second, building new pipelines for natural gas takes years and requires complex geopolitical alignment, whereas LNG infrastructure, particularly floating storage and regasification units, can be deployed much more quickly. As a result, Brussels encouraged member states to expand their LNG import capacity, which increased by 70 billion cubic meters between 2023 and 2024, and a further 60 billion cubic meters is expected to come online by 2030. Between 2004 and 2024, the value of US oil and LNG exports to Europe also rose from $1.6 billion to $90.8 billion, with Europe's share of total US oil and LNG exports rising from 15.2% in 2004 to 30.5% in 2024. Currently, the US, which only began exporting LNG at scale in 2016, supplies roughly 60% of Europe's LNG imports, reaching around 13 EU member states, most of them Western European countries, like France, Spain, and the Netherlands, which have more LNG coastal entry points and denser interconnector networks. And that share is expected to grow in the coming years under the Trump administration. President Donald Trump has repeatedly criticized the EU's investment in renewable energy, claiming it has harmed both the American and European economies, and he's been lobbying hard for American energy dominance in Europe. As part of the trade agreement announced between the EU and the US in July 2025, Brussels pledged to purchase $250 billion worth of American oil, gas, and nuclear energy over the next 3 years. In return, Washington agreed to reduce tariffs on EU goods from 30% to 15%. According to the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, the US could supply as much as 80% of Europe's LNG by 2030. The $250 billion energy deal would require the EU to more than triple its current imports from the US, but realistically, this seems impossible to achieve in the next 3 years. Still, European leaders at an industry event in Washington last month reaffirmed the bloc's commitment to keep buying LNG, and one European country, which has big ambitions to become a key partner to the US LNG industry, is Greece. More specifically, Greece hopes to be the main southern European gateway for American LNG reaching Europe, and, in turn, to become something of a regional energy hub. Now, like most other European countries, in the past, Greece depended a lot on Russian gas and oil, although it also had its own domestic energy source of coal mines, but began phasing this out in favour of renewables, LNG imports from Algeria, and natural gas from Azerbaijan, imported via the Trans-Adriatic pipeline. Then, following the surge in energy prices triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Greece started investing heavily in key infrastructure projects as part of the Vertical Corridor project, a south-to-north route that carries gas from Greece to Central Europe and Ukraine. In 2022, Greece completed an interconnector with Bulgaria and planned to construct another interconnector to North Macedonia, with possible expansion into Kosovo and Serbia. With support from the EU's post-pandemic recovery fund, Greece has invested heavily in LNG import infrastructure. Until recently, the so-called vertical gas corridor attracted limited commercial interest, largely because of pipeline bottlenecks and regulatory constraints on long-term bookings. But with Brussels planning to phase out Russian gas entirely by 2027, the corridor is now drawing far greater attention. LNG buyers are reportedly already reserving loading slots at Revi Thusa import terminal through to 2040. Greece's expanding LNG network has also caught Washington's attention, and in 2025, more than 80% of Greece's LNG imports came from the US. The US sees Greece as a key connector capable of channeling American LNG into Central and Eastern Europe, including Ukraine, where currently little US LNG reaches. In November, the US and Greece signed a 20-year agreement under which the United States will supply around 15 billion cubic meters of LNG over the duration of the deal. At the same time, the US also wants to step up its presence in the Eastern Mediterranean and has been backing the 3+1 energy partnership with Greece, Cyprus and Israel, which looks to develop offshore gas reserves and link electricity grids through the planned €2 billion Great Sea Interconnector. American energy giants are already moving into the area. In November, ExxonMobil signed agreements to explore an offshore block in western Greece, and more recently, a consortium led by Chevron secured exclusive rights to search for natural gas off southern Greece. For Athens, which has been actively deepening ties with Washington, this growing energy partnership is a welcome development. US officials have openly praised Greece's evolving role, framing it as a boost to the transatlantic alliance. However, by locking in long-term gas contracts, the EU risks undermining not only its Green Deal, but also its energy autonomy, simply replacing dependency on Russian energy with dependency on US LNG. While Washington promises reliable supply, European leaders caution against overdependence, especially following Trump's belligerence towards the continent. This means that Greece's hopes of becoming a regional energy hub are closely linked to how Brussels navigates its touchy relationship with Washington. As we mentioned earlier, the latest issue of our magazine, Too Long, is out now, which means that if you order a physical edition, it will be shipped to you immediately. And if you buy a digital edition, it will land in your inbox straight away. No pre-ordering, no waiting. Plus, if you subscribe while you're there, using the code SPRING26, you'll get your first copy for as little as £4.99, as well as 20% off every future issue as long as you stay subscribed. One other thing to know though, is that if you're more of a listener than a reader, which would be fair enough, we are a YouTube channel after all, then this time round we've recorded every article in Too Long, with each of our writers doing their best audiobook impression while narrating their own articles. The New Age of Empires, written and read by Georgina Finley. If you want that, then you can sign up to our new Too Long and TLDR Party bundle. That gets you a copy of the magazine, and also access to TLDR Party on new subscription. Party members not only get access to the audio versions of every article, but they also get access to our documentaries, like our new series Leaders and Losers, and our upcoming documentary that we're recording in Greenland right now. They also get access to our behind-the-scenes podcast, The Bullpen, our bonus podcast, The Last Move, their name printed in every issue of our magazine, and more. Find out more about the TLDR Party by clicking the link in the description, while you'll also find a link to subscribe to Too Long and our documentaries.